Hi, this is Shubhayan Chakravarti for RevSportz, and it's the end of the year 2023, a beautiful year for the world of sports. In cricket, there were some amazing moments for the men in blue, which we will talk about in this video, and some of the highlights of this year. So number one, it started with a marquee series, a 4-match test series between Australia and India. India won the series 2-1, and we saw Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja dominating the series, picking up the majority of wickets. And of course, Australian players had a lot of confidence in them that they can do something against India in India, which has been an impossible task for the visiting teams in India, and that was the case when Australia travelled all the way to India for a 4-match test series. They were decimated, they were destroyed by the likes of Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja, who dominated in the spin tracks of the Indian conditions. And yes, that marked the start of a good series for the good start of win for the Indian team. And let's see what happened in that series. Then came the marquee series in the men's edition, Australia Tour of India. The two sides played 4 tests, which India won 2-1. India were at their dominant best. Though they lost a game against the Aussies, the Rohit Sharma led side comfortably won the series 2-1. Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja dominated the show with the ball, scalping 25 and 22 wickets respectively. After the Australia series came the WTC World Test Championship final in England. India were all up against Australia, but this time around Australia had their game, had the plan, destroyed the Indian team, won the WTC final under Pat Cummins. It was not a good sighting for the Indian team, as the exclusion of Ravichandran Ashwin made the headlines. India were destroyed, they were dominated by the Australian team, and we saw India suffered another defeat in an ICC final. Let's take a look at what happened there. The World Test Championship final was played against Australia in London, but for the Indian team, it ended up in another heartbreaking defeat, another ICC tournament without a trophy. There was a debate around dropping Ashwin for yet another major finale, as Australia hammered India by 209 runs in London, with Travis Head and Steve Smith scoring a century in the first innings, whereas the Indian batters fell flat. Another ICC tournament and another ICC final defeat. After the emotional roller coaster ride in the WTC final, India had a big series in the name of Asia Cup. We saw India, there was all the hype around India versus Pakistan. We were there to cover the entire Asia Cup in Sri Lanka, but India came out victorious. Not only did they defeat Pakistan by a whopping 200 plus run margin, but they went on undefeated to go on and clinch the Asia Cup title. Remember that Mohammad Siraj fell in the final? That was the highlight of the entire Asia Cup. We saw some magnificent innings by KL Rahul, by Ishan Kishan in the series, but that spell by Mohammad Siraj, which remains the best ever in Asia Cup by an Indian bowler, has to be the highlight, the biggest highlight for the Indian team. The Indian team celebrated all the way in their hotel. They gave the trophy to super fans like Sudhir and even the Rohit Sharma fan. They gave the trophy. They enjoyed the moment in Sri Lanka, and so let's take a look at how the Asia Cup went for India. There was a lot of controversy around which country would host the Asia Cup, but eventually it was held in a hybrid model where Pakistan, the real hosts, hosted a few matches in their country before the tournament shifted to Sri Lanka. The Indian team roared in Sri Lanka. They defeated Pakistan in the group stage by a mammoth 200 plus total before demolishing Sri Lanka in the final, which saw Mohammad Siraj emerging as the hero with a memorable match-winning spell. Along with the Asia Cup, India were playing in China as well. They were playing cricket tournament in the Asian Games. The men's team, the women's team, both of them ended up with gold medal. India, under the leadership of Ruturaj Gaikwad, saw the rise of Rinku Singh. Rinku Singh, of course, we know him. He smashed 5 sixes in the IPL, but the way he has taken international cricket like fish in the water, it has been a phenomenal rise. The young Indian team saw some heroes emerge, saw some records broken, and they ended up winning a historic gold medal in the Asian Games. So let's check out. Our team was there in China, in Hangzhou, to cover the event. So let's check out what happened in China. While the entire country was celebrating Asia Cup victory, the women's and men's team in the Asian Games, which was held in China, returned with gold medals. The Harmanpreet Co led outfit started the proceedings by winning the first ever cricket gold medal in China before the Indian men's team followed suit. India in total won 107 medals, including 28 golds. The women's cricket tournament saw Titas Sadhu grabbing the headlines once again in the final with a match-winning spell, while the men's tournament saw the rise of Rinku Singh, who has since become a household name and a regular in the Indian playing 11. After the Asian Games came the big tournament, the biggest of them all, the ODI World Cup in India. The entire country backed the men in blue. They went on 10 matches in a row undefeated. Rohit Sharma's captaincy, Virat Kohli's batting, he smashed all the records that were there in that ODI World Cup. But the highlight was the Indian team winning 10 games in a row. We saw so many. We saw Hardik Pandya getting injured. We saw Surya Kumar Yadav being drafted into the playing 11. We saw Jasprit Bumrah bowling like a fire. We saw Mohammad Siraj also bowling some good spell. And then there was Mohammad Shami. He did not play the first 4 matches due to the team combination. But as soon as he got the chance, he killed it. He picked up wickets in bundle, ended up as the highest wicket taker. And yes, Mohammad Shami has to be one of the biggest highlights for India in that ODI World Cup. But yes, we saw the sea of blue. We saw the sea of blue everywhere the Indian team played, in all the 11 cities, including the warm-up matches in Guwahati and Trivandrum. RevSportz was there to cover the entire tournament, the only organization which had their reporters in all the games, and we saw this team gel, their camaraderie, their fun, their excellent brand of cricket. But somehow in the final at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, they ended losing the game, that too against Australia. The same thing which happened in the WTC final. It was a heart-crushing moment to see all the 1 lakh plus supporters walking out of the Ahmedabad stadium, and they were just disappointed. They were just disappointed that India, despite being the best team by a mile in the tournament, could not clinch that ICC trophy. The wait for the ICC trophy continues, but for India, it was a very, very good tournament. So let's check out what happened in the ODI World Cup. Arguably the biggest tournament in the year 2023 was the ODI World Cup, which was hosted by India. The Rohit Sharma led team saw a memorable run across 11 cities, including the warm-up games, and the entire country rallied around this men in blue side, as we saw a sea of blue in every stadium wherever India played. Chennai, Delhi, Pune, Bangalore, Dharamshala, Lucknow, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Kolkata, Mumbai, India won 10 matches on the bounce, but fell short to everyone's heartbreak in the grand finale in Ahmedabad against Australia. During the World Cup, we saw Virat Kohli breaking records. Number 48 came, number 49th came, and then came the 50th century at the Wankhede Stadium, his second home ground, in front of his idol Sachin Tendulkar, in front of his family, his wife Anushka Sharma, and in front of footballing legend David Beckham. Virat Kohli just bowed down in front of everyone in the stands, his family, his idol, and it was a moment to cherish. We saw Virat Kohli just scoring 750 plus runs, breaking the record for most runs in an ODI World Cup. So let's check out some of the good moments from Virat Kohli's ODI World Cup.
The World Cup also saw Virat Kohli breaking records. A record-breaking 765 runs, the most ever for a player in the single edition of a World Cup, and top it up with ODI century numbers 48, 49 and 50. The 50th, which was a record-breaking feat in itself, was special as it came in his second home at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai, and that too in front of his idol Sachin Tendulkar, his wife Anushka Sharma and footballing legend David Beckham.
For India, it all came down to that IPL auction. The entire country was glued to their television screens, their digital mobile phones, their tablets, their laptops, and they saw Mitchell Starc shattering the record. First it was Australian captain Pat Cummins who breached the 20 crore mark, but 1 hour after that we saw KKR splashing the cash for Mitchell Starc, who is entering the IPL auction after 8 years. 24.75 crore. Mitchell Starc is the most costliest player in that IPL auction, and we also saw Daryl Mitchell, Harshal Patel bagging big contracts. We saw some uncapped domestic players. We saw the emergence of the first ever tribal cricketer to feature in an IPL, bagging a huge contract of 3 crore plus. It is a stuff of dreams for all the youngsters, even the experienced players. It's a life-changing opportunity. So let's check out some of the glimpses from the IPL auction.
IPL auctions have become grand extravaganzas, and this time the mega event was held in Dubai. It saw numerous players fighting to get a place in one of the franchises in the IPL. The likes of Rachin Ravindra, Gerald Coetza, Travis Head, among others, were the headline grabbers from the auction.
Now for India, it all boils down to one series. They will end and start the year 23 and 24 respectively with a test series against South Africa. It's a 2-match test series, so there's only Boxing Day test and New Year's test. So India will have a golden opportunity to end the year 2023 on a high, and of course start the year 2024 on a bright note. Can India go on to win their first ever series on South African soil? We will see that. It's going to be an emotional ride for most of the players who were part of that World Cup final team, and they will have the chance to redeem themselves, to come out and script history in South Africa. Can they do that? We will see. So this was the roundup for the year 2023. Now let's check out what happened in the women's cricket as explained by Gargi Raut. So let's check out.
Thank you, Shubhan. When we look back on 2023, it's been a great year for women's cricket in India. Starting with, of course, ICC announcing equal prize money for men's and women's tournaments. Women's cricket, this is all women cricketers have been striving for, especially in India where there wasn't really any financial stability for women's cricketers. When I was playing, I'm talking about back in 2014, 2013, the older girls had to work at least 2 jobs to afford basic necessities, to afford a good life, a comfortable life, but that's no longer the case because young girls now will be empowered to take up the sport. When we look back onto 2023 and how the Indian women's cricket team has fared, of course we have to talk about the Under-19 World Cup. This is the first time a World Cup came to India, and it was the very first edition of the tournament as well.
For the Indian women's team, the year 2023 started on a cracking note. Playing the first ever Women's Under-19 World Cup in South Africa, the team led by Shefali Verma won the tournament. Youngsters like Richa Ghosh did well, so did other youngsters like Shweta Sehrawat, Soumya Tiwari, Jeet Risha, Parshavi Chopra, among others. But the real winner out of this tournament was Titas Sadhu, who caught the eyes with a match-winning spell of 2 for 6 in 4 overs to win the player of the match in the final. Shortly after the Under-19 World Cup, there was a Women's T20 World Cup in South Africa. India fell short against Australia in the semis, and a lot of debate was around Harmanpreet Kaur's run out where her bat got stuck. It was a semi which India should have won, but the tournament ended on a heartbreaking note as India ended up losing an opportunity to win an ICC trophy.
Moving on to the emerging Asia Cup, where once again India won with a dominating fashion. And then of course we have to talk about the roaring success of the first edition of the WPL. BCCI successfully held the first inaugural edition of the Women's Premier League, because of which there has been such an incredible dynamic change in women's cricket. When we look at it, young girls will no longer be scared to take up the sport. When we look at the parents, they're looking at it on TV, they're seeing it on their phones, reading it on the newspapers. Someone like a Brinda Dinesh, 22-year-old, going for 1.3 crores. Then Yashasvi Gautam, who's just as young, going for 2 crores. This is what has changed for women's cricket in India.
After the World Cup, the cricketing world saw the second WPL auction. This time a mini affair, but the franchisees splashed the cash on domestic talents such as Yashasvi Gautam and Brinda Dinesh. It also saw overseas stars such as Annabelle Sutherland bagging big bucks. The inaugural auction of the Women's Premier League caught the imagination of the entire country. It saw the emergence of the first ever Women's Premier League, where 5 franchisees splashed the big bucks for Indian and overseas talents. The most costliest player was Smriti Mandhana, who went for 3.4 crore, while overseas stars like Ashley Gardner and Nat Silverbrunt were signed up for 3.2 crores. It was a massive blockbuster, and the entire country enjoyed the rise of women's cricket in India.
If that wasn't enough, there has been a historic win for women's cricket, for Indian women's cricket against England. In a one-off test match in December, India clinched a historic win against England women by 347 runs, which was the highest ever margin in women's test cricket.
It has become a rarity that India hosts a test match in women's cricket, that too on home soil. After 9 years, India hosted a test match on their home soil, and thanks to a dominating performance, especially by the batters and Deepti Sharma in particular, the women in blue won the test by a record margin of 347 runs in Mumbai as England fell flat in tough conditions in Mumbai.
It's almost like the Indian women's cricket team has had a perfect end to the year. And we'll be looking forward to obviously the second edition of the Women's Premier League, which will happen soon, and then the big blockbuster Women's T20 World Cup.
The year for the Indian team started in South Africa, where the women's under-19 team won the Under-19 World Cup, and now the men's team will have the opportunity to end the year 2023 on a high note and start the year 2024 by winning the Test series in South Africa, which remains an unconquered territory for the men in blue.